Hey guys, Jiminy Cricket here. I promised a few people a video last week, but unfortunately I haven't been able to get round to it. So I've just gotten to it. Thank God. It's about time. I want to talk about the asset sales. That's my first point, and also I want to bring to attention of New Zealanders, because this is not a very well known thing, unlike in America, where they have the Federal Reserve, and they've come to their senses and they realise they need to get rid of it. And I'll get to those reasons shortly, because I will be talking about that in depth. This is one of the things I'm relatively knowledgeable about. I'm not an expert, but I know what I'm talking about. Alright, but first I want to start you off with a quote which actually relates quite well to the asset sales. It's by Thomas Jefferson. He's one of the founding fathers of America. Oh no, if there's American viewers of this, obviously I don't have to tell you that, but I'm more looking at the New Zealand viewers. They wouldn't really know. It's not a big thing we're taught over here, but the quote is, "I predict future happiness for Americans if they can prevent the government from wasting the labours of the people under the pretext of taking care of them." And yeah, we have a big thing about that, getting taken care of by the government. We're a very socialist state. We're not communist, but we are socialists. We believe that we should be taken care of from cradle to grave. And this is excuse me, my beard's a little bit itchy. It's quite long. I apologise. Yeah. We like being looked after by the government, and it's been like this for a long time. It's very institutionalised. But the asset sales, we'll get asset sales. Sorry, I'm getting off track here already. Having a rant. My bad. Basically, most of the country's against it. It shouldn't happen. It just got through today by one vote, 60 to 61 in the National Coalition government's favour, which actually pisses me off quite a bit, because they are selling out energy companies and we've just had a spike in our prices already. For those who don't quite understand how this is going to affect us, the main thing is what happens when these energy companies are privately owned and their main focus is to make profits for their shareholders, which is, if they're owned privately, is the goal. And I don't disagree with privately owned companies making profits for their shareholders, as long as it's done ethically. But the problem with energy companies is there's no other alternatives. So I see a monopoly building, and I see, what do I see happening is, rather than what the government's telling us is, oh yep, local buyers of these shares are gonna get a 10% and a 10%, I think 10% discount after they spend a certain amount on shares, and yeah. But I don't believe it's going to be the mum and dad investor that got cleaned out in '08 by the housing bubble and the stock market crash that happened then. I believe it's going to be the multinational companies that are based here. Well, their subsidiaries that are based here. They're going to be buying these shares, and I believe it's going to be a very, very monopoly thing. I believe it's going to be a few people owning them, and they are going to have us by the throat, people. So, but I have a suggestion on how we can maybe prevent it. I may be wrong. People may disagree with me, but this is what I think we can do. I believe that as many people as possible laid private prosecutions against John Key and our Finance Minister, Bill English. It'll get their attention, but it needs to be done in massive numbers. Numbers that I have little faith that New Zealanders will go out and do this, because unfortunately we're not a big country in activists. We look at activists like they're crazy hippies, you know, trying to save the world, but all they do is smoke weed and smell. And I was a little bit under that assumption for quite a while. Right through my teenage years, it actually stopped me from getting involved in that. Some of the people that are involved in the truth movement, for instance, were quite whack jobbish, and this is what's put me off this whole area, this yeah. But something needs to be done. The people that are going out and getting the signatures, good on you guys. I'd actually like to help with that. I actually intend on getting hold of them and seeing if I can do that in Taupo myself to help them get signatures. And I believe people should do that in their hometowns, and I believe you get quite a few signatures and a lot of support. As for the Federal Reserve, how I was saying before, I was going to talk about the New Zealand Reserve Bank, and talk about how I'll be using the Federal Reserve as an example of this, because this is where I get most of my information from, is the States, about the central banking system and that's what's made me go out and do my research about the New Zealand Reserve Bank. Now, if I'm wrong, if I've got my facts muddled up, please correct me, because I'd rather have my facts straight, and I can do videos to correct my information. I believe I have my facts straight. I've got some facts in front of me, that's why I'm not always looking at the camera. So, a wide assumption in New Zealand and around the world about centralised banks, the central banks, the reserve banks, is they're publicly owned. They're owned by the government. That is a complete and utter lie. They are privately owned banks. Now, the way I'm going to use the Federal Reserve here, and this ties into how the New Zealand Reserve Bank works, is Federal Reserve is a privately owned bank. How they make their money is the government buys their currency off the government, but they pay interest on their own money. Alright, and then they distribute it how banks do, and banks borrow money off them at the same interest rate. But and that's how they loan money, and this is how the housing bubble started. That's a whole big issue, and I hope to get into it in future videos. But this is the basic thing: governments borrow money they borrow their own money off their reserve banks, like New Zealand Reserve Bank, for instance. If anyone's holding a 5, 10, a 20, 100, 50, whatever, look on it and tell me where it actually says it's actual currency, because it won't. It says this is legal tender for $20 or $10 or whatever. That's not real money. Currency is hard currency, like gold and silver and oil, like commodities. They are commodities, things that are rare and are actually worth something. Now, a question I have, and I hope people out there can actually answer this for me, because I haven't actually been able to find this information. Does the Reserve Bank pay tax? Because I don't believe they do, but I don't know, and I'd like to really find that out. If anyone could help me out and tell me about that, that'd be fantastic, or even where to find this information. Yeah. So, anyway, I'll leave it there, and I hope to hear from you guys, and maybe you guys have some ideas or some questions that I can do some other videos and a bit more research about, because getting a bit obsessive. Alright, thanks guys.